Hello, everyone. We're back with another episode of Tooways to Skin a Cat, a show where we talk career experiences, entrepreneurship, and investments. The main aim is to show that there's more ways to be successful other than just climbing the corporate ladder. We are live on LinkedIn and YouTube, and the show will be available on podcast by tomorrow morning. So don't forget to like, subscribe, and click on that notification bell to get automatically notified when the next episode comes out. If you are joining us live, drop a one in the comments. And if you're watching the recording, drop a two in the comments. My guest for this week is Kavika Singh, BPO Manager at Accensis and also a qualified ACCA. Kavika, thanks so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much, Tooways. Thanks for having me on your show.
Let's jump straight into the meat of it. Tell us your story. Where do you come from? And even outside of work, who is Kavika Singh? Give us that backstory.
Kavika Singh had a very humble beginning. Me, started off in a very small place called Tegela, which is close to Zululand. It's from the farm. So I'm definitely a farm girl at heart. And it was very nice living on the farm, close family, simple life. And then it was my father's dream to move to the coast. So in realizing his dream, we all managed to also move to the coast with him. So I now live in Blythedale Beach. And so from there, I continued my primary school and then high school in Stangamana. And thereafter, I went to university, which is UKZN Westville, to study accounting. And even in that process, I wasn't certain I wanted to be an accountant, even being a chartered accountant today. In fact, I was keen on forensic science. Maybe it was all the CSI that I used to watch. But super keen on forensics. And then I decided to choose accounting. But I definitely developed a passion along the way for it. So I ended up qualifying with my degree from the University of KwaZulu-Natal. And then I went on to study through UNISA because I wanted to actually work and study at the same time. And so I did my CTA through UNISA, CTA level 1, while doing my articles at a company called Robertson Chaplin. With my partner Valerie Pillay, who was extremely influential in my life, and a great leader who is just so focused on ethics, and that my love for ethics and my love for doing the right thing all the time definitely developed with her. Going through my articles, it was a little bit of a tough to manage studying and working at the same time. It's not easy at all. So I managed to pass CTA level 1 during that, but I wasn't so successful in CTA level 2. But I did successfully complete my articles during that time, which was a great accomplishment for me. And so after my articles, I decided to go to Joburg, which is what most people do. They either go to Cape Town or Joburg, to try to get into to boost their career in accounting. And so I continued studying my CTA when I moved to Johannesburg. And it was a bit hectic finding a job and settling in at the same time. So I decided to cancel my year of studies at UNISA, only to find out that it was my last attempt at CTA level 2. So I couldn't pursue the CASA route. So I was despondent, but I didn't give up. I knew the end goal was to become a chartered accountant. And so I said, okay, there has to be another path. Right. And so I went about doing my research and looking at other careers, other sort of associations. And here comes up ACCA and everything, reading, just the more I read about it, just everything just resonated with me. Even their slogan, ACCA, think ahead. It just is something, and a global accountant and all of those things. So it resonated with me. So I said, why not? Let's just continue with this. And it means my continuation down this path to becoming a chartered accountant. And eventually, through failures as well, even with ACCA, I became a chartered accountant. I got a permanent position at a company called Daisy Business Solutions, which I spent 3.5 years there, meeting some wonderful people with some crazy personalities, but people that I will never forget and I still talk to up until today. And past that, then the pandemic hit, unfortunately, and we went into isolation. And I think at that point, so many people passing away and stuff like that. Being away from my family really caused some distress for me. And so I actually approached my managers and said, is it okay now that we're working out of the office and stuff like that? Is it okay if I work from KZN? And they were so kind and so willing to let me come back to KZN to be with my family during that time. And so I managed to be with my family. And then when I got home, I said, after 3.5 years in this company, and everything started opening up again, and you could go places, I just couldn't leave my family again. So I do honestly prefer the coast better than inland. So
Up south.
yeah, I said, you know what, I want to pursue a career on this side. I want to be with my family. So I actually ended up resigning and looking for a job on this side. During that space, I spent a lot of time doing introspection, because I had one module more to go to get my ACCA qualification. And I knew that obviously after I qualify, I wanted to do something with my qualification. I just didn't want to be a chartered accountant and be like, yeah, I'm done studying. I don't have to open a book again in my life. Yay. You know? Yeah, I started looking, I saw a career coach who was amazing, which was the best decision I ever made in my life, to see a career coach. Her name is Taryn Mudley, and she's a CASA, and she just gives the most amazing advice. And so she helped me identify my strengths, my weaknesses, and which type of industry I want to be in, whether it's in practice, out of practice. So just by conversations and exercises. And so I definitely came to a conclusion that I want to be in practice, and I don't want to be in industry anymore. I'm a person that likes a bit of structure, so I think practice was definitely for me. I enjoyed my time during articles despite the workload and the extra hours and the lack of pay. But it was still so much. I mean, it's constant learning, and then that's something that's very close to me because I'm an avid learner. So I started applying for some jobs, and then came up a position for a senior auditor at a company called Accensis, which is where I'm at right now. I said, okay, fine. You know what? It's not, I was financial accountant in Joburg, but it's not such a big thing. Let me just get to it, because I want to be in practice. I can grow from there. I'm confident about that. So I ended up interviewing for the position of senior auditor with the CEO of our company, Mr. Suresh Naidu. And he actually, during the interview, is like, okay, we're going to stop you there. It's like, I have a position for a BPO manager because you're more of a managerial level right now. Would you like to interview for that? And I was like, oh, okay, but I didn't prepare for that right now. I prepared for the interview for audit senior. And he was like, no, let's just have a conversation. And so we ended up conversing, and it was really easygoing. And so I ended up getting the job as a BPO manager, which is where I'm at now. It's been a year so far, and it's been an amazing experience with Accensis. It is just such a lovely environment, and it's definitely a culture of learning and growing and generating efficiencies. And yeah, and in between all of that, on a personal level, I love traveling. So along my journeys, I've seen quite a few places, and I hope to see many more. I love music. As you can tell, I'm very family orientated, which is why I'm still at home. Yeah, and I have two amazing nephews who just own my heart. And yeah, that's basically me in a nutshell. Oh, and an exercise fundi, love. Have
That's
to.
good. It's amazing how the more senior you get, how these interviews are just discussions, and they become this.
Exactly.
It's not as serious as it was when you first started. Like, oh my word, I'm going for an interview. But anyway, you've
Yeah.
answered actually some of my questions as well that I was going to ask. But you told us about why you went the ACCA route instead of the
Yeah.
CASA route. But I always feel that ACCA is not that well known in South Africa. Can you tell us a little bit more about it? There seems to be a little bit of a lack of knowledge about the qualification. I've learned a little bit about it the last 2 years by interviewing people, but before that, I didn't know much. So maybe can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, so personally, obviously, when I was choosing qualifications and started go to become accounting, the only designation in South Africa is CASA. So you start plotting a path towards CSA, and it's not easy to get there, And if you don't eventually get the title of CASA. Not to hurt anybody that didn't get it, but you sort of like classed as a glorified bookkeeper. That's what they call you, and that's what I've heard along the way, and because you gain this knowledge but you don't have your professional title. And I thought that was really demeaning and stuff like that, like, to hear everything like that, because it's a difficult part to attain and to go on. And so I took it upon myself to look for other associations, but it's scary, and people live in a lot of fear of not attaining their goals, especially if they're one track minded on the CASA route. So I think it's basically fear at this point that's stopping students and people that want to become accountants from looking at other things. So ACCA has been here and they do advertise, and there is a lot of branding and stuff like that, but you have to sort of like want to know what's out there, as well. I mean, if you only know of CSA, you're going to be CASA, which is our local designation. And I'm a child of both because I did my psych articles and I qualified with ACCA, and both are very similar and respected professions. That's what I believe.
Okay.
And it's about getting that pathway, like, to being in that field in that respective profession, but you have to find it in terms of ACCA. But in terms of CASA, because this is the South African designation, everybody knows of CASA, but the ACCA is branding better right now, and they are getting familiar. I know when I wrote my strategic business leader exam in Durban, it was literally just the two of us and two
Oh,
people writing the exam,
two
right?
people
And
writing it. Okay.
what now? Board two, and that was the case study. And if you think about board two, it's like a room full of people, like thousands of people writing board two,
Mm.
right? So I get what you're saying is that it seems like it's not well known, but it's like if you're in South Africa, you tend to have this mentality that you're only going to be recognized if you're a CASA. So, but for me personally, it's not about the title. It's what you do with your knowledge and how you share that knowledge that's really important.
Best place for somebody to find out more about ACCA?
So best place will be the ACCA website. So you can Google it, and all the information is there. There's articles, there's anything. There's links to how you can set up, but also you can find somebody like myself that's ACCA qualified. And I mean, people are welcome to message me on LinkedIn, which they do. Whoever reaches out to me, I always send them links and articles as to how they can complete the qualification and at what level they are at and what it would take, because to continue the qualification, because I had CTA level 1. So I had exemptions. I had 6 exemptions. So I didn't have to write all of the exams. And then that's how I managed to finish faster. So you can come straight out of matric and then go and do ACC and start the process at the earlier stage, or you can switch if you are unsuccessful in the path that you're in.
Okay. If anybody's got any questions for Kavika, please add the questions to the comment section now. We'll answer all the questions towards the end. You mentioned that you spent some time in Johannesburg and moved back to KZN. What are the opportunities like in the greater Durban area in industry? Are there a lot of opportunities available, or are all the jobs still in Joburg?
I would say the jobs are still in Joburg, because even it's growing here, it's becoming better. But even in applying here in Durban, I got a lot of feedback from Johannesburg. Most of the calls I would get were recruiters asking me if I'm still in Johannesburg, if I want to come back to Joburg, all of those things. So there are jobs available, but there's a lot more unemployed people here, unemployed professionals in Durban that don't really want to go elsewhere. I still want to be at home, that's in the market. So I think that's what's making it difficult to get a job, is that there are jobs, but there's so many professional people in Durban looking for the same job. So yeah, they do have employers are kind of spoiled for choice at this point.
Okay.
Yeah, in Durban.
And what would be your advice for, say, a young professional in KZN who's thinking, should I go or should I stay?
I think the most important thing is what makes you happy, right? It's a job is a job, but you need to be in a place where you are first and foremost happy with your situation and it is in line with what you see for yourself. So if you think of yourself as somebody that can grow better in Cape Town or Joburg or even overseas, because I mean, you're moving to an environment that's going to work towards your purpose and stuff, then you should leave. You should go. And but if you're the type of person that is going to struggle, to be independent, to this thing, to work with that, there's a greater chance that it might not work out because your support system is here. It's where you're at. Then I would say stay. But you need to know who you are, what your passions are, what you want first. Then that decision will become second nature.
Okay. And to me, there's no right answer. Like, there's only a right answer
There,
for you.
there
Don't
isn't.
make the decision based on what somebody else thinks because your
Exactly that.
situation is different.
Exactly that. Because everybody said go to Joburg, you'll get a job, go to Joburg and you'll be happy. But Joburg is, for me, honestly, I feel it's a bit robotic. You go, you get up in the morning, you go to work, you go to gym, you get home, you sleep, you get up, you go. It's the same thing, and I'm not much of a person that has a nightlife. Like, that has friends, that socializes, that goes out. I like reading. So for me, and spending time with my family. So when I would come home, I mean, my family wouldn't be there. I lived with my sister. It was just myself and her, but she would also be that robotic nature. She would be working, I would be working, we'd come home. So, and we tend, when we're at home, and in KZN here, it's more of a family orientated, so like socializing, sort of like, connecting with people, not robotic. So it didn't work for me because of that, not because of the job market, not because of anything. It's because it doesn't resonate with who I am as an individual.
Great. I think that's great. Find out what suits you best. I
Mm-hmm.
was looking through your LinkedIn and I see you post a lot about United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Tell us why is that so? Why are you focusing on that? Why is that so important to you?
Because I think it signifies hope, right? Hope of a better tomorrow. Just hope of the fact that we can live in a world that is equal. We can live in a world where people have opportunity, there's no poverty. All of those things, instead of concentrating on every bad thing that's happening right now, with the load shedding, with the looting, with the climate change, that it's so bad, it's so depressing. It's the mortality rate because of the pandemic. There's so much to be sad about, and there's so much to talk about, to be sad about. But then there's also so much that we can talk about, like the UN SDGs, about what we can do today, irrespective of the sadness that's around us, irrespective of what's happening. Let's talk about the better world that we can create. And with these 17 goals, we can actually have a plan of action and a vision towards taking us to those goals. So that's why I'm like super keen on that. And I'm learning a lot more
No,
about it. There's so much to learn. There's so much to read. And sometimes I would just spend a whole day just reading up on those things, but it's amazing.
no, that sounds amazing. You mentioned earlier that you're a BPO manager, or I think it's business process outsourcing. But
That's right.
what is BPO? What does it mean? Like, what is the day-to-day work involved? Because I'm sure there's a lot of people who don't who would like to know.
Yeah, no, exactly that. Like every time I say I'm a BPO manager, they're like, so like what is that? And yeah, no, but you're 100% right. It's business process outsourcing, and it's basically your full accounting function as well as consulting. So we're basically an outsourced accountant, where companies feel like maybe they don't want to go through that recruiting process, and of having to hire somebody internally and then manage that person's performance and such like, and they would rather go to an external party to do their whole entire accounting function, which is payroll, the accounting, financial statements, all of those things, all in one, and taxes. And then the consulting aspect comes in terms of cash flow forecasts, business valuations, business plans. So all of those things are incorporated, and just from an external point of view, telling you what's best for your business from a financial perspective.
Okay. I think
Yeah.
that gives us a good idea. I'm going to ask you a question I like to ask all my guests. What is one piece of advice you would give your younger self?
I would definitely say read more at a younger age. Read more commercial books, read more books about life, you know, and just to build up that knowledge at a younger age as to um, basically go into situations with more knowledge than going into situations not knowing, what to do. So you sort of like give yourself the best ammunition to have a more successful outcome with increasing your knowledge at a younger age, and not just in terms of academics. I'm talking like life skill books, like so I mean, just helps you better to get through life.
I think that's great advice and a great way to end my questions. I'm just going to switch over to the comment section and see if there's any questions that have come through. We've got a question here from Timbeka who says, how are the board exams compared to CISA for ACCA?
Well, I actually wrote CTA level 1. I didn't write attempt abroad, so I didn't make it past CTA level 2, but I did have friends that did it. And I mean, you would have done the board exam. So I know from an ACCA perspective, I can tell you that the strategic business leader, which is the case study, I think the difference is that it's 4 hours instead of 8 hours, which board 2 is 8 hours. And it's a case study where we don't get the case beforehand. We don't know what the situation is. We get 1 hour approximately. They tell you it's been your best interest to keep it an hour, to read multiple exhibits in the exam and decipher what is the problem with everything and what is expected of you, and then about 3 hours to write up the plan. So I know that's our case study that we get at the professional level to do. So yeah, that's basically the difference.
And how many board exams are there on the ACCA side?
So there is a professional level that you have to pass
Okay.
ultimately to get, which is 4 subjects. But ideally,
Okay.
there's 6 that you can choose from. So the compulsory 2 is strategic business leader and strategic business reporting. And then you can choose from 4 of the other ones, depending on whether you want to be in practice or you want to be in out of practice, or basically the path that you're choosing for yourself, the industry you want to be in. So there's advanced performance management, which is like the costing, management accounting, advanced financial management, which is the statistics side of things, the investing and all of those things, financial markets. There is advanced taxation if you want to specialize in taxation, and there is advanced auditing if you want to stay in practice and still be an auditor. But obviously, ACCA isn't recognized yet in South Africa in terms of the auditing field by IRBA. So you wouldn't at this point be allowed to sign off audits.
Understood. We've got another question. I'm not sure who it asked, but would you say that the ACCA syllabus is easier than the psycho syllabus, and are the pass rates higher for ACCA? We know it's smaller, so
It's
the
smaller.
stats are probably
I wouldn't say, I wouldn't say it's easier because I think they test the same concepts. The fundamental difference that I was attracted to, and of course I didn't write my board, so I can't comment on what is tested on the board. Maybe it is the same thing, I wouldn't know. But for me, it was the heavy emphasis on strategy and risk, and basically solving real world examples over and above your accounting and auditing standards. And I think that's what I enjoyed most, but also it's very difficult because there is no right solution. Under that time constraint, to come up with a strategy in terms of the risk that the company is facing without having the case study beforehand that is going to make you competent at the end of the day, that is a challenge. So
sounds like
for
real
me,
world problems.
yeah, it's a real world problem. So because your CEO is waiting for that answer, and and information becomes redundant the longer you take. So it was a real test, but a really good growth point in my life.
Any last few words from you, or anything we didn't discuss that you'd like the audience to know?
I think I've covered a lot in this time, but I just like to relay to everybody that's listening and for the students that's out there that failure is a part of life. So and failure is a great opportunity to build resilience. So, and resilience is what's needed to survive in this world, no matter where you are, no matter what you're doing. So whoever's listening, I just want to let you know, even if you've been through any failure, any hardships in your life, there is still a chance that you are going to succeed and at whatever you set out to do. Just stay determined. And like myself, who has been through a lot of failures, I stay determined. I am passionate about growing my knowledge, and I take an active part towards achieving all of that. So if you're listening, and if you're feeling down, or if you're feeling sad, don't give up. Never give up hope. Carry on reading. Pick up that book. Put that music on, and dance if you have to feel better, and just keep on living life to the best of your ability.
That is a great way to end. The show has been live on YouTube and should be available on podcast by tomorrow. If you're watching on YouTube or listening on the podcast and you feel that it's added value, don't forget to like, subscribe, and click on that notification bell to get automatically notified when the next episode comes out. Kavika, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, always, and wish you all the best.
Thanks, everyone, for joining us for another episode of Two Ways to Skin a Cat. Goodbye.